What's up, everybody? It's episode, I don't know, I think 23. Oh my gosh. Episode 23 of Josh Says Mean Things, the August 2021 edition. It's hard to believe. We've been doing this for over a year now. Over a year. Wow. Time flies when you're in a quarantine. Not really. My concept of time is, I don't know. Did it happen yesterday? Did it happen last month? Did it happen last year? Did it happen last decade? I don't know anymore. I really don't. We have a good batch of images today. I'm pretty excited to share them with y'all. Obviously, shout out to all of our happy patrons. Had a great time with y'all shooting a fire dancer last week. That was really awesome. So you'll see a couple of those photos. Pretty cool. I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do for September. So if you have suggestions, leave them in the comments. If you have any crazy ideas that you want me to set up, let me know. I'll get something weird together because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. Probably needs to be outside, indoor stuff. Yeah, what's up, Ron? Dragon. Sorry, I didn't mean to give it away there. But yeah, if you have ideas, I'm down. I think maybe when it's safer, we'll do the macro indoors. We still have like a cotton gin tour coming up. What's up, Mr. Bill? So yeah, if you have ideas, I am down. This group of images we're going to have today, it's going to be fun. I think the main takeaway from today, if there's a main takeaway, if there's a theme, is remember that we're magicians. Remember that it's our job to trick the viewer into seeing exactly what we want them to see and nothing more than that. So we're going to go through the photos and then I'm going to open up Lightroom and show you just some subtle tricks. I didn't really change exposure. I didn't really change white balance or anything like that. But just subtle tricks to focus the viewer's eye on those things that you want them to see. So a lot of you are starting to use flash, environmental portraits, and that's great. Love it. Love seeing it. Getting better about balancing ambient with strobe, and that's great. But now it's, hey, Donna, what's up? But now it's about shaping that light, either with different modifiers or in post, right, with using radial tools in Lightroom or gradient tools in Lightroom to where we kind of erase our flash signature. And I'll show you some examples of those, but that's kind of a lot of what I'm going to talk about. The other thing, and I know it's kind of a common theme here, but just a little bit of cropping. There's going to be a vintage photo coming up, so let's use a vintage style crop, right? So, cameras in the old days were 4x5s, 8x10s, those sort of things. So it would make sense to have a 4x5 or 8x10 crop and not a digital 35mm resolution 3x2 crop. So just some little things like that to keep in mind as we're going through the photos. And if anytime there's a question, always throw it in the chat comments. We try to read them as quick as we can. See if there's anything else. No. The Learn Lightroom Live for September. I'm going to edit kind of sport portraits. Hey, what's up, Chris? I think just like sport portrait, more like a grungy edit instead of a normal portrait edit, whatever that may be. Nothing I do is all that normal. But yeah, we've had some requests for doing some sport portraits and like what you can do with that. Basically turn the clarity to 100. No, but just some different things you can do with all those things. All right. So let's see if everything loads here. Does. Awesome. Okay, let's get into the photo things. Chris, it looked like you had a whole lot of fun shooting the balloon festival. I've been seeing a lot of stuff coming from there that looks really fun. So yeah, keep posting. I've been enjoying those. This first photo is from Mr. Miguel. He said, I was traveling and I didn't want to take a normal photo of the Space Needle. And so I thought what he did here was kind of ingenious, right? Which was get a reflection, right? I'm a sucker for good reflection photos. And I really thought he did a good job here of kind of, not only did he get a reflection of the Space Needle and kind of made it all warpy, kind of cool. But then also we have this really fun, like pink to blue gradient. And I think that adds a lot of interest, right? If you didn't know what was in the photo, right? It's just an object and reflection. Just the color alone, I think, is interesting. Right, we still have that pink to blue gradient, which is a great color contrast with like a gold in the center. So even if you didn't know what this was, I think the photo still stands on its own. And then you start looking at it a little more and you go, oh, that's a Space Needle. Well, that's cool. And I think that's always a challenge when traveling, right? It's not always possible to get the best like postcard photo or the best whatever, right? So, you know, I kind of talked about this in a post on my Patreon page earlier this month. I was just in California, and we were at Lombard Street, right? The real like crooky, curvy street in San Francisco. Notice the photo behind me, San Francisco. You know, and I didn't try to get the postcard photo. I just didn't even try because there was 1,000 people around. There was stuff everywhere, so I just threw my kids out, got a couple fun snapshots, and then on our way, right? I didn't try to like grip so hard that it took away from the enjoyment of where I was. But I think this is a great way to get a different look. And so that's something always to think about, right? In my post today, I talked about how do you make your photo yours, right? How do you make a photo of the Space Needle, which has been photographed, you know, a jillion times? How do you make that your photo and not just a carbon copy or a second-rate version of somebody else's photo? So I really want y'all to think about that as you're going through your days, as you're going through, you know, your shoots and stuff. You know, I think a great question to ask yourself is, what can I do and how can I push myself so that these photos are mine and not just somebody else? What's up, Mark, all the way from Ireland? I wasn't expecting you to see you today, man. That's awesome. Out there in Ire. That's awesome. Good to see you, Mark. We have 2 of your photos to talk about. So anyway, I think this is a great photo to start off as a way to say, hey, you're traveling. You know, you're not going to get there at the perfect time, the perfect conditions, and the perfect location. So while you're out traveling, get something that reminds you of when you were there, but maybe shows it in a different way. This photo of San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, right? It was foggy. You couldn't even see the bridge. So I was like, just embrace it. Go with it. Instead of trying to grip so hard that, you know, you're upset with yourself that you didn't get the perfect photo. Get what you get and kind of, you know, put your own spin on it. Yeah. All right, this one comes from Miss Maddie, a little UT graduation. Hook 'em, right? I'm a proud graduate. Yeah, Mark, I think you have to have a Guinness for everybody here. I think there's like 12 of us, 15 of us. So it looks like you're gonna have to go like a full case of Guinness tonight. That's just the rules. I don't make them. So this photo is from Miss Maddie graduation photo, and I think this is kind of the first example of the photos from this stream, where obviously a flash was used, good balancing against the lights in the background, right? Exposed for those lights in the back, use a flash. The exposure on her face is good. It's balanced well with the light behind. All that's good. She's got a great expression. She's got a good walk, hands out wide. Things are good there. However, the signature of the flash being fired on camera shows up in the foreground, right? So as at the bottom of the photo going up, we see the results of that flash. And so this is where I would say use the gradient tool on Lightroom, and as you bring it up, dial in some like minus exposure and minus highlights, right? So that we darken the foreground, because what happens, her toes are the same brightness as her teeth. And I want to look at her face and see that expression and not look down to the stones at the bottom. I want to keep my eyes up. And so if we darken the bottom, we can bring in your eyes to really focus on that great expression that you got, right? Just beautiful, great smile. You know, so all of that's good. I like that. I like the reflections of the water and the way the lights from the back are hitting the water and getting these cool reflections. Good symmetry, right? The photo on the left, photo on the right, about the same, good symmetry. So all those things are working well. I would say the top line, there's like a little row of lights at the very top. I would crop in just a little bit so that your eyes don't escape to those lights at the very top. You don't really notice them the first time you look at the photo, but on second glance, you kind of start to see them a little bit. So this photo, I actually kind of drastically changed in Lightroom later. I went with a vertical crop just to really focus in, because I didn't think those trees on the left and right did much. I don't think they really added much to the photo. So I went with a vertical crop. I'll show you what I did, but just something to keep in mind, right? But again, you know, just getting rid of the signature of the flash so that the light is on the person's face and not so much on their legs and the ground. So there you go. All right, this one comes from Another one of our lovely patrons. This is his dog in the backyard. And who doesn't love a good dog photo, right? Everybody sees this photo and goes, "Aw," right? We all love that. So I think to enhance the awes, to enhance that emotion, that drama, right? I think the foreground, although this photo is interesting, without a subject in it, just the gradient of the light to gray to dark to bright to dark is interesting without any animal in it. Just imagine, take out the animal and just those gradient exposures, in focus, out of focus, and you have all these like zones of midtones and highlights and blacks. I think just that works, especially with the dog who has, that. But with the dog there, we kind of really want to go to its face and the nose and the eyes. And so I think getting rid of that entire bright part at the bottom, or again, negative gradient on the bottom to reduce those highlights on the bottom so that our eyes are allowed to stay on the face of the pup, right? Because that's really where we want our attention to be, right? How do we know that that's where the photographer wants us to look? Because that's what's in focus, right? So sharpness is another way to tell the viewer, hey, I want you to see this. And because that's what's in focus, we know that that's where we should be looking. So bring up a gradient and then use some negative exposure to darken the bottom, or just crop that out completely. Either way, because it's drawing your eye down. Again, it's drawing our eye down instead of up to meet the dog's eyes, right? So that's my big. I like the black and white. I think the tonality there is really good. I love the grays and like I said, grays, highlights, shadows all work really well. Just that over bright foreground really distracts from really taking in all the drama and the emotion of the dog. Yeah, so that's my big critique there. Ooh, a car photo. Y'all know I like car photos. Cool car. I love Chevys. I'm a Chevy guy. So you hit me with some good feels there. The first thing I noticed on this photo, though, is that this car has like a little brother in the background creeping up on it. So if you look over the headlight, you can see another little car coming in, another truck coming in even. And so you almost don't keep your eyes on the truck because you're going to the cars behind. Quick little Photoshop, brush that out. Even a bad like Lightroom spot removal is still helpful. What I like about this photo is kind of this muted color palette, right? Just kind of these like soft greens into the blues, into the like light blues of the sky, right? It has a vintage feel, and it has that kind of desaturated look. So I like all of those things. I think it's really smooth edit, right? My edits tend to be very loud and obnoxious. Don't know why, but I think that the feel of this photo is right. The feel of the just blues and greens. It's almost monochromatic or really dichromatic, right? Two colors, blues and greens. That's really the only color information in this photo. And so that part I like. The other thing I noticed in looking at the metadata in this photo, it was shot at a really, 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 really deep f-stop, like f18, I think. And it's sharp from the very front tail light all the way to the back of the car. But the other thing that causes is that the background also is really sharp. And so it doesn't have any of that kind of out of focus area because everything's in focus. I think it was shot at like 27 millimeters at f18. So, I mean, everything's sharp. And I think that kind of works against it here. I would have liked to have seen it maybe, I don't know, f5.6 maybe. And if that back of the car gets a little out of focus, that's okay. Generally for me, I like shooting cars like f5.6, f8. And I usually focus on the wheel closest to me. And if I focus on the wheel closest to me, the stuff that's in front of the wheel will still be pretty sharp, but then it gives you a pretty good amount of focus, but it's separated enough with the background where it's reasonably sharp for the car, and then the background starts to fade. And I think that would help that. I think this feels a little bit too much like, a photo that doesn't have the capability of having depth of field. But I think a little bit of depth of field would soften this photo up in the background to make that car stand out even more. Because everything is so, dichromatic, that using aperture as a way to make the car stand out, I think would help. The other thing with shooting cars, I shoot a lot of cars. A circular polarizer. If you look at like the hood, the front quarter panel and the hood quarter panel, I think a polarizer to reduce that would be good. The other thing you can do in a situation like that, I'm pretty sure this was taken with a camera on a tripod because the shutter speed was like 1/100th at f/18 at ISO 100. So it suggested it was on a tripod, but I don't know for sure. But what you can do, you can take multiple exposures, right, and then rotate your polarizer. So you would have a polarizer for the side body panel. You would have a polarizer shot for the front grille. You would have a polarizer for the roof, and then you would move it again for the windshield. And then in Photoshop, you can combine all of those, right? You're on a tripod, so it's easy to combine, auto-align the layers, and then just paint in the polarized versions of each of those parts of the car, and then it'll look like it has no reflections instead of showing all the other things around it. So just something to try, if you have some time, get a polarizer for whatever lens you tend to shoot your cars with, and try doing what I call a polarizer stack. I think it would really kind of bring out the best of the cars and really show off that bodywork a little bit more. Sorry, that's probably too long talking about cars, but I shoot a lot of cars. So, yeah, there we go. But cool truck. I definitely would love a ride in that truck sometime. All right. And this is from Chris. We just talked about hot air balloons. Chris, where was this all taken? Because I've seen a bunch of them come from you, so there had to be some balloon festival. Anyway, if you can throw out the details, I'm sure people are going to ask, so go ahead and get started on that. So I think this photo has some interesting things going on with it. If you notice, all the people have different color gloves on against the black fabric of the background. Pretty cool. One guy's hand in the middle looks like his hand is getting lit up in fire. Right, the guy in the center, it looks like his hand should be melting at any minute. So that's fun. But what I really like is this diagonal tension of this photo, right? So the burner is going at a 45-degree angle, firing this flame into this black and purple, balloon. And so I think that's the real strong part of the photo. I think I ended up doing a square crop on this to really focus more on the hands, the fabric, and the flame, and not so much, and to kind of, as an easy way to get rid of the cars in the background, to really focus in on the viewer. Hey, this is exactly what I want you to look at, and leave nothing to chance. And so just kind of punching in, right, just to that center. I think that could be interesting. I don't know how close you could get. You could feel the heat from where you stood. Wow, that's cool. I bet you could. You could see the sweat coming off the guy in the orange, so I know it's hot. But I think this would also benefit perhaps with putting the camera on the ground and shooting up, because it feels like it was shot at about the eye level of everybody standing there, roughly. Maybe you're up on a little bit of an embankment, but about that level. So camera lower to really accentuate that flame and really make those hands higher up in the frame. But I do like the diagonal of the strings and the lines and the flame against kind of the vertiginous nature of the trees and the hands. So I think those all work well together. Just there's some like cars on the left and some cars on the right. And I would just punch in just so that it makes it a little bit more timeless, instead of having like, oh, that's a 2018 Ford F-150. I know what that is. Just those little details, I think, could really make it go. But I do love the flame. It's hard to capture that amount of flame. So I think you did well to capture that. We'll see some more flames here in a minute. Hey. Ooh. This one's from Kira. And she had a pretty big email with this, which was, she's like, hey, the couple really wanted a picture of this truck. It was, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon in August. We were all sweaty. I put them in the shade to make it a little bit easier on them. But she said she didn't really like her light modifier choice, but it's too hot to change. Totally get that. I've been in that position 100%. I get this. I actually know where this was shot. I've shot weddings there myself. I think Chapel del Sonea is where this is. There's another truck like that at another venue, but I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, also 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the guy and the girl are both wearing white shirts. Ooh, that makes it tough to light because the light hits their shirt and goes nuclear, and then it does serve as a reflector under the chin, but that's very tough in Texas in the afternoon. Ooh, tough. Again, I'm not sure if this was used, but a polarizer would help. This foliage in the background got pretty hot. And so controlling your reflections by throwing on a polarizer and darkening, taking out the reflections of that foliage is going to help this photo feel a little softer as well. So I think actually the light is fine. I think the modifier is a good choice. It's pretty soft light on the couple. It's not a hard modifier. It's not a long throw. But what happens is, that, especially if you look at the very lower left of this photo, you see a hot spot at the very bottom left. And so this is where either a radial tool can darken that or a gradient tool to darken that, I think would help. The other part of this compositionally, it kind of looks like the truck is about to ram the dude's butt. And maybe that's not the best composition. So I think for something like this, backing up and shooting a little bit longer is helpful. So you're probably 35 to 50 mil range is kind of what it feels like, but going maybe like 85 to 135 range and backing up. And so that the two elements are truck and couple without kind of this dead space to the far right and to the left. Shooting longer is actually easier compositional wise because you have less to deal with. When you shoot wide, you have to take into account everything in the frame. And the longer focal lengths, you really only have to account for exactly what's in the frame. So when you're in a tough spot, I try to shoot longer. It just makes things a little bit easier, especially if I'm already hot, my brain's melty, I'm trying to worry about lighting. By shooting longer, just eliminates more choices that I have to make. So just something to consider. Actually, I think the lighting's fine. Like, I don't think that's really the problem here. It's just, it's a tough time of day. You know, there's that Saharan dust is in the sky. So even your blue skies are kind of this washed out blue. There's not a lot you can do about it. I'm guessing your flash was near full power if it's firing through any type of modifier, even if it's only 3 feet away. It's just that time of day. It's, you know, I see all these like beautiful wedding photos from like the Pacific Northwest or, you know, the Northeast where they get all these really soft light and it's this nice, pretty August wedding. I'm like, we don't ever get light like that in Texas. Like it never happens. It's always just hot Texas summer or like blustery, crazy winter. And there's really no in between for wedding photos in Texas. There's never that like soft golden light, or if we get it, it's for like 5 minutes. But I've seen I've shot entire weddings in the Pacific Northwest where like the entire day was just beautiful light. Doesn't happen here. And so you really have to know how to light to get anything if you want to shoot weddings in Texas. It does. So I took this photo and I added a bunch of I just basically did a bunch of dodging and burning just as a way to kind of make your eyes go to the couple's face because I like the way they're looking at each other. I just would like to see a little bit of separation between the couple's bodies and the truck, just a little bit. So just one step to the right, I think it'd be better. The other thing that could have been done is totally switch them. So they're on the left, the truck's on the right. And so if you flip those two elements by taking like 3 steps to the left, you could have put the couple against the negative space of the sky if you just moved them over like 3 feet. And where the blue sky is, put their heads there, and then that could have solved composition. I think that would have because they're against the busyness of the tree branches. So by moving them to the right, putting the truck on the left, and crisscrossing those two elements, I think that could have been stronger as well. But good job lighting a couple at 3 o'clock at Texas in August at probably 103 degrees. All right. Speaking of weddings, I shot this person's wedding. Mark and Miss Durhammer here, who is our yoga queen. You've probably seen Mark's photos. I think last time they were somewhere in the Ford Bronco and it looked like a damn car commercial. So this time she's doing her yoga against a whole bunch of flowers. So, Mark, I'm kind of curious if you're still watching. What lens did you shoot this with? Because the background has some like interesting bokeh at the top, and I'm curious what lens you used. I didn't look it up when I hit info. But cool flowers, cool pose. Here's what I see as my issue with this photo. So we have this cool like internal framing, right? This arch of flowers. And this, again, I think a longer lens could help, although I think it was shot with a telephoto. I would have liked to have seen Jessica behind the flowers in this bright spot of the sun, right, where the sunlight's coming in, and then use the flowers as an internal frame. So if you and her both would have walked forward about 10 feet, use just the flowers as the framing, but made them out of focus by putting her farther back, and then because she's at the same level as the flowers, right? She's at the same level. And so there's not really a way to make her stand out. Nifty 50. Okay. I thought it had, okay. Yeah, nifty 50. Yeah, it had that bokeh of a 50. I got you. But same lens, but just you walking forward 5 steps and then her walking back 5 steps, putting her in the light because her face is in the dark spot and then her legs are brighter. So you actually tend to go to her left calf, and the flowers get kind of, they're at the same level. So adding some depth. There's no foreground to this photo, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's no foreground. So making the flowers the foreground, putting her in the midground, and then letting the rest of the forest be the background, I think would make a stronger shot. The other thing, tonality-wise, everything's kind of the same. And we want to look at, her doing this kind of cool, like, pose. And so I would want that brighter and let the rest of the background darker. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But those would be, but it's missing a foreground. That's really the problem with this photo. However, this next one, I love this photo. I love this photo, Mark. Really well done. It's very serene. This will be the second most serene photo of the session because Stephen Burkich has like the most serene photo coming up here in just a second. But I love this. It's just a very sweet moment, that kind of golden light. It's just the water's still, the flowers are still. It's just very peaceful, right? It'd be a great like computer background. Did find like tricky that standing leg in her face. Yeah, I could see that. But I love this. I like the way the boat kind of points up so that we have some like angles, and the dock is like the dock and the boat prow form a triangle of negative space against the triangle of the positive space of the boat. So some good things going on there. It's just nice. This cool wooden boat, wooden flowers tied up against a stump. It's just serene, and you only see exactly what I don't want to see anything more in this photo, right? I don't want to pull back and see more details. This is all the details I need. I get it. I don't want more. And so I think it's well done in terms of, I think for a lot of photos, less is more. Less visual information is more pleasing. We don't want to have to make decisions about where to look. Like, does anybody have a doubt about where to look? You look at the flowers, you look at the boat. That's it. There's not like competing elements around it that are pulling focus from your eye. So I like this one, Mark. I really like this one. I wouldn't change anything about this one. Good job. All right. This comes from Miss Tiffany. Farmhouse Photography. Big shout out. Good people down in Marion, Texas. Look, we got people from Marion, Texas, and we got people in Ireland. I mean, we're a worldwide phenomenon here. But this is an example. I think the output power of the flash is right against the sun, right? Cool sunset. The flash output power is correct. What I feel needs work is that I feel like the flash lit up too much. The steps are too bright. The shoes are too bright. The chain link fence is too bright. His face is right, and the sunset's right. It's all the rest that needs a little bit of help. So this is where I think a little contrast would help. A gradient tool to darken kind of from the lower left corner up to the center, and then a radial tool to kind of make his face the brightest thing, and everything outside that radial tool darker. And I think that would make that photo pop more. Because that's right. The hands are strong. Hands, football, face against with that sunset, that like middle 20%. That's the most interesting part. The problem is our eyes, again, are wanting to tilt down, right? They're trying to go down to the shoes. They're going down to the bleacher steps. They're going away from what's in focus, which is the face. So we want to make those out of focus bright spots work to serve the face, okay? So yeah, I like the hands. I like the pose. I like the sunset. All that's good. The other way you could go with this is making the flash output like another stop brighter and going like very bright, over bright, and making it more of like a high fashion photo, right? That's the other way you could go. I don't know that I would do it with this particular one, but it's a way you could go, right? This flash is right, but if you want to make it weirder, go more. Or make the steps less. Those are kind of your two choices. So. Ooh. This is from a wedding. I know the person in the photo too. All those good Marion and Seguin peeps. Shout out Guadalupe County. What's up? So photos like this are more tricky than you think. If you've ever tried to take a perfectly symmetrical photo with a human subject, it's actually harder than you think, because you're actually doing two things. You're doing a portrait and you're doing an architectural photo. And so I think the light on her face, great. So I think that's really well done. And I like that there's layers, right? She's in the foreground. We have the doors as the middle ground, on the way those candles, chandeliers. Is that the right word? When I say it, it doesn't seem like the right word. Not kilowatt. I don't know. Tell me what the right word is. Chandelier? Is that it? I don't know. But you can tell that the photographer's like a step to the right too far. If you look at those windows, they're kind of got that tilt to them. Right? They're kind of sliding down. Now, there's some easy ways in post-processing to fix this, right? Go to Transform tool in Lightroom, hit Auto. It'll do its best to correct for that off-centeredness. It'll try to straighten up all the lines. Also, in the Transform tool, you could use the guided and draw the lines you want reshaped. It'll reshape them for you. So easy-ish fixes. They've certainly gotten better over the years. But that's the first thing I noticed when I saw this photo was those windows are kind of sliding away from you because you're a little bit closer to the right side of the building than to the left. And so the left side looks further away than the right side, right? And so that's the architectural half of this photo. The portrait half, I love. Honestly, I think a vertical, tighter crop of bride doors candles, I think that could be really strong too. So just something to play with. I'm sure there is one as well. But I like how the light is on her face the most and everything else is less bright. So your face goes exactly to the center of that frame and not so much to the corners and the edges. So I like all that. I like the color, the tonality, right? That kind of stucco, all of that works. I would say like the lower right maybe is a little bright. I might darken that with a little bit of a radio brush. But I think the tonality is there. I love like stucco and like just bare concrete. For me, portraits, I love doing portraits against just kind of that really neutral background. I don't know, it's not that hard, but I've always loved it. I like the way that looks. Just that kind of like the cool of the contrast of the concrete or the stucco or the adobe versus the warmth of the skin. I don't know. To me, it's just always been appealing. So anyway, good job. But just fix the lines. That's the biggest part. All right. This one is from Miss Kim. Y'all might have seen Kim, the person who took this photo. If y'all saw my how we do our rain photos, I posted that to our YouTube channel yesterday. So if you wanted to watch us have a little goofiness, we sprayed a model with a water hose at 10:30 yesterday morning, and it was fun. We got some cool photos out of it. So this photo definitely, again, has this vintage feel, right? It feels like it's going for the aesthetic of like, this could have been shot in 1960. It could have been shot in 1980. It could have been shot this year, right? It has that vintage feel. But what's not vintage about it is that it's a 3x2 crop. There's a little bit of room on the head. So to me, it suggests going with like a classic 4x5 to make it feel like it could have been shot with a medium format, because the background kind of has that blurry medium format feel anyway. It's got a pretty shallow depth of field. So just like lean into that. The post-processing already feels vintage. So the crop should feel vintage as well. Maybe a square crop too. I don't know. Square crops are hard for me. I never know how I feel about square crops. I know some people who do great with them. It just doesn't suit my eye. I like 8x10s vertical. I don't like 8x10s going horizontal though. They always feel like their feet got chopped off. Anyway, I digress. I like the pose. I think the eyes, the processing on the eyes is just right. Like, it's very easy to overdo eye retouching and make it look like they're shooting laser eyes. I think when we're first doing like eye retouching, we take it too far, and it looks like they have like diamonds in their eyes, or they're shooting like cat lasers out of them. So that's never what we're going for. So I think they're well controlled. The lips are nice and soft, skin's nice and soft. The other one thing, I can tell the skin's retouched, but there's one hair that's like right above the lips. It's just like coming in. It almost looks like a mic. So I take care of that a little bit. But I like the soft flowers, the floral print with the flowers, the soft hair, flower crown, right? All that stuff works. The other part that's kind of hard about this is that background gets pretty hot. And so coming around a little bit where she's more fully in the shade, I think that could be interesting too. I'm sure there's photos from this session that feel that way. But I just like this kind of serene vibe to it, the muted colors. I think all that works. Yeah. The one thing I would say, if you keep this aspect ratio crop, I would come down a little bit because the forearm is kind of, it's cropped right along that forearm. And so either come up a little bit or come down a little bit. But I feel like it's kind of right in the middle of where it should be, especially since you have enough space at the top. What's up, Miguel? Yours was the first photo, man. You are our leadoff hitter today. Ooh, drinking some hot tea this morning. Oh, also, side note, I had a bad case of vertigo today. I don't wish that on anybody. I couldn't drive today. My wife had to drive me around the day. I was stretching my back this morning, and I don't know what happened. The room started spinning, so yay, vertigo. I feel better now, but yeah, I was knocked out for about 10 hours today. So I'm sorry if you are also a vertigo sufferer. I empathize greatly with you. It kind of put me on my butt today. Yeah, you got on base, man. You hit a solid double, Miguel. Solid double. Solid double. All right. This photo is from Mr. Brian. He says this is from Maryland. Look at, ooh, 2 photos from Maryland? 2 photos from Maryland, right? Chris, yours was in Maryland too, weren't you? Look at that. I'm telling you, man, we're worldwide going on here. I love this photo. Great sunset. Right, I think the challenge with sunset photos is what to do for the foreground, right? Beautiful skies, now what? What's interesting about this is the sky is the background, but the reflection where the sky is the foreground. So this photo actually goes foreground reflection, the middle ground is the plane, the background is the sunset, which is kind of trippy if you think about it, right? The foreground's the reflection, middle ground's the plane, background's the sunset. Kind of cool. Patty, does that say absinthe for vertigo? I'm down with that. I'm down with some absinthe for curing vertigo. No, I know. Antihistamine, yeah. I know. I've been rolling my head and kind of doing those exercises that help. All right. Yeah, go Maryland. I know. Crazy. But I love this. I think one of the things I always forget to do, I always, when I'm flying, when I'm traveling, I have my camera with me and I always forget to use it. We'll be on a plane or something and I don't know. I never take it out and like shoot with it. So I think this is a great photo to remind you to kind of always be shooting, right? Always be ready. Whatever camera you have with you is the best camera. Use it. So yeah, I just like the feel of like, I think I felt this photo before. Like I felt like looking out the window, waiting for my flight home or waiting for my flight to where I'm going or whatever. There's that kind of anticipation of like, I'm about to be somewhere else, right? Airports are very transitory places, right? Nobody lives there permanently, or not many people. But I like that. What's up, Jeff? Oh, yeah. No, I've had vertigo for about 17 years. I had it bad for like when I was 26, 25, 26. I had a case where like 6 weeks I could barely stand up. It was fun. Anyway. I also got in a fight with my ear, nose, and throat doctor because he accused me of doing cocaine, which, no. But I almost had to take his sorry butt outside because I didn't like the accusation. Anyway, whole nother story. That's a story for offline. Anyway, back to this photo from Brian. I love the feel of travel. I have a painting in my house from my friend Leah, who is actually one of our podcast guests. But it absolutely makes me feel that feeling of travel is like nothing else. Like that feeling of being in transit. That's the only thing that feels that. And I think this photo really captures that feeling of, right, I'm in a place, but I'm about to go someplace else. So, yeah, good photo, Brian. Love it. I'm going to change it slightly by adding 0.6 rotation of crop because I'm a OCD. So, oh, look at this, a fire dancer. Hey, this is our awesome fire dancer, Miss Jamie Angelica. You'll see another photo from Bill. Took another one from this. I'm working on a post about this experience. Hopefully Dragon sends me some video so I can put together another video. But I actually messed up in 2 different ways on this shoot. I was in charge of lighting. I didn't account for how close the flames were going to be to her face, and the warming gel that I put on as the main light was too red in conjunction with the flames. I should have had less of a gel. I had a full CTO. I should have had a half CTO. My mistake. The other thing that I messed up, I lowered my shutter speed. I think I told you what shutter speed I was using to get the blue in the sky. I forgot that the flames needed a faster shutter speed so they didn't overexpose. So we should have let the sky go black to get better flames. My mistake. That was my error. But this is a really cool photo of Jamie. She was awesome. If you need a fire dance or something, hit me up. I'll give you her contact. She was great. She lit flames for like 2.5 hours. She was sweating because, you know, they had this big like dragon rolling thing. It was cool. Really cool experience. So two things that I kind of noticed. Again, I think the foreground is too bright. And so I would have darkened the foreground so that her eyes are so intense in this photo. Like, look at those, like very powerful eyes. And so I want the foreground darker so that your eyes come up to her eyes and see that like intensity. When we have flames and smoke and blues and oranges and reds and like all kind of fun color. So I like all that. I love the way the ripples in the water show. I think that's really neat. So yeah, also this photo feels a little bit, just a little bit tilted. So just straighten it just a little bit, like 1 degree to the right. Yes, I'm that person that goes into other people's houses and straightens photo frames because I don't know why it bothers me, but it does. But also, like, I think this is good that you weren't above, right? You're shooting pretty much on eye level with her. And I think that gives it a little bit more power than if you were shooting above, right? That kind of would have diminished her power. I wish I had my underwater housing so I could have shot like from under the water, like split level, where we could have seen like half underwater and half above. I think that would have been cool, but I didn't have the gear for that. But just as an idea of something to do next time. But yeah, I love the toning of this. I think the blues. I know you're shooting Canon, so do I. This color blue, this like that very, very blue, is really hard to control. For whatever reason, Canon cameras, you get down like under 3,000 Kelvin. And those blues get real finicky about what shows up and what gets blown out. And so I think the highlights here are well controlled, and that's harder to do, I think, than people might imagine. For whatever reason, like stage uplighting, like that blue stage uplighting gets really difficult for Canon cameras as well. I don't know why. Nikons have that problem with reds, like the red, like any like bright like neon reds, they just don't deal with it. I don't know. It's just different sensors. But I love this pose. I love her hands, kind of like the scorpion pose. So, yeah, it's fun. I like this. Good job, Patty. Thanks for being out there with us. Ooh, Steven. There's only one thing I would change about this photo, Steven. In the very left corner, you left a big dust spot. That's it. So this is the most serene photo of the day. This is the most serene. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Josh, this doesn't have a foreground. Haha, yes it does. There is haze and kind of this fog rolling in, and that's actually our foreground on the very far right-hand side. There's actually haze there. So that gives us our foreground depth. The trees are our midground, and then I think this is Mount Rainier. I think it's Mount Rainier. And that gives us our background. And then I like that it's mirrored. And I like that there's about the same amount of, almost exactly the same amount of positive space at the top, or negative space at the top, as there is negative space at the bottom. Right. So we definitely have like this whole mirror. It's right about, oh, you can't see my mouse. I'll show you. It's like, yeah, it's on the left-hand side. I don't know. It's there. I'll show you. I'll zoom into Lightroom in a minute and show you. But yeah, just the colors, the tonality, like I just feel more at peace looking at this photo. It's really well done. The subtleties in the trees, kind of the light coming across. It's great. You know it's good. I don't know what do you want me to say about it? I don't know. Fix your dust spots. Other than that, wonderful. Make a big print of it. Hang it up. Look at it. Admire it. Hang it in somebody else's office. Sell some prints. Get after it. It's good. Booyah. All right. Here we have a musician shot. There's a lot I like about this photo. There's a couple things I would change. I like that there's a silhouette. We don't need to see his face. Just the outline is great, right? Yeah, I know. See, hours of dodging and burning. Now you're getting it. Dodging and burning, dodging and burning. Same thing that Ansel Adams did, right? Dodging and burning. That's you want to make your photos better, dodge and burn. But because what it does is it minimizes what you don't want people to see, and it maximizes what you do want people to see. That's why dodging and burning works, right? It's all about those subtle shifts of relative brightness in different elements in your photo. Yeah. All right. In this one, I wouldn't dodge and burn anything. If I could change anything about this photo, two things. There's a little bit of like holly or something. It's a little bit, is it a bat? I'm not sure what that is. Just above the guitar neck, straight up, there's that little bee. I would just crop that out. Not crop that out, clone that out. I don't want to crop because I really like the way the lights are out of focus elements. That gives the photo some depth, right? Shoot through stuff. And so I love the light bulbs as out of focus highlights. So I would clone that little thing out that's, I don't know, against that white. The other thing I would do, man, I would take like 6 inches to the left so that his black silhouette is completely encompassed by the white of the background. His right shoulder is going through that pillar on the right just enough to where it's a little distracting, instead of if his entire frame was entirely in that internal framing between the metal pillar and the wooden pillar where that white space is. That would have framed him really cool internally. I love the little details in this, though. I think there's maybe like a pack of cigarettes on the amp, and there's like some like vintage sunglasses on like the subwoofer, and like all these little cool textures. But yeah, I just, man, like 6 inches to the left just to make him against that, just that white silhouette. So you'd have the contrast of his black silhouette against the white background. That's what I'm going for there. I like the grain. I love the feel. The blacks aren't black. They're kind of shadowy. So I think it really captures a mood and a vibe, and it says that through the photo. So I think all of that works. Just those little bitty compositional tweaks, I think would push this photo up a level. No, that's where I'm at. Another fire dancer. Look at this. She's eating fire. Those are not marshmallows. Those are actual fire flames, and you could feel the heat when you got really close. Again, it was a really cool shoot. We had a great time with that. Yeah, definitely, Jeff. Embrace the fuzz. I think you absolutely made the right choice there. Yeah, go with the fuzz. Yeah. Nobody cares about ISO. Not really. I don't know if y'all can hear my 7-year-old. He's just cackling next to me. He's got a great laugh. I think this is interesting. This photo was taken maybe a minute apart from Patty's. This is from Bill. And I just think it's so interesting how different this photo looks and feels than one it might have been within like a minute of each other. That's when s'mores become sores. Yeah, she was doing this all night for like 2.5 hours. She did it. It was awesome. We'll probably do something with her and another friend of mine soon. We'll figure that out. But I love this moment, right? The tongue's out, head's back. It's about to get eaten. She's way braver than I am. I'm good at pushing buttons. That's all I'm good at doing. And here she is eating flames. That's some skills. Also, a woman you don't want to piss off because I'm sure she could blow that fire right back at you. I don't know, a little like drunken master stance. But it's really cool. I love the reflection at the very bottom. There's a little kiss of light at the bottom from one of the flames. But I think this photo is a good example of, it doesn't really need a background. There's not really a foreground. And she's just the light in the photo. But I wouldn't change the crop. I think the crop is just right. The only thing I would change, I would bring up the luminance of just her skin tones. What's weird, her skin looks like it's splotchy, but it's actually because we're shooting through the smoke of the flames causes some lack of clarity like on skin. I'm guessing this was shot at pretty high ISO too. I would just bring up the luminance of her skin just a little bit, just to brighten it up just a little bit. So I use the HSL panel a ton, and just as a way to just make that skin pop. I don't want the whole photo brighter. I just want the skin tone brighter. That'd be the thing I would change. But good moment, right? Just that tongue. That's kind of cool. You know exactly what's about to happen, right? That anticipation, like, oh, she's going to eat it. Ooh. So very good, Bill. Very good. I added that photo twice. Okay. here's what I'm going to do. Let me move this screen over. And then let's take a look at Lightroom. Okay, let me flip over to Lightroom here. Can y'all see that? Cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the letter Y. If you're in the develop panel, in Lightroom, you hit the letter Y, it'll give you a before and after. I did nothing to this photo except crop it like, I'm sorry, 0.42. And the only reason I cropped it was to make the dorsal fin of this plane completely vertical. That's all I did. That's all I changed. But it just felt a little, to the left. So I just a little bit. I know you hate it when I do stuff to your photos, Brian. I'm sorry. But that's all I did for that one. That's all. That's it. Just that. So this is kind of what I was talking about with this vintage photo. You can see how much I cropped in. I gave it an 8x10 crop. I didn't change anything else. Just this crop, and I think it makes it feel more out of time. I think it gives it a feel that it could have been in the 50s or 60s instead of shot today. Just those little subtle changes. The other thing it does, it kind of gets rid of some of these highlights in the background. It kind of minimizes how bright that out of focus area is. So just some little changes there. I didn't do anything to this one. Good shot, Miguel. I really love the blue and pink, and I think that's great. I didn't change anything. Good shot. So this one, I did two things. No, I did more than that. But if you notice, I just did a really bad Lightroom spot removal of the truck that was there. So there was a truck right here. I got rid of that. But I just think it makes your eyes stay here. The other thing I did, I have what is called, I created a brush called Wheels, which basically adds a bunch of like clarity and whites. And I just brushed that in over the wheels and the grill just to make those pop out just a little bit. And then the other thing I did, I just gave it some vignette. Oh, this is just a way to vignette, right? So radial brush, negative 0.4 exposure, negative 15 highlights. And all that does, I'll show you the Y, the before and after. It just, by coloration, it just makes the center of it a little stand out a little bit more. It's a subtle change, but it's basically a way to do custom vignetting, just to make that front headlight pop just a little bit more. That's really all I did. But by adding that brush on that wheels brush, it makes those rims pop out a little bit and those headlights pop out just a little bit, and it gives you something more for your eye to focus on and less on the background. Let's see. Okay, this one probably had a big change. So here's the crop originally, and then I went to a vertical crop. And I think this really brought out how great of an expression this is, because it's a great expression. So we really want to focus on that. The other thing I did, not red eye. I did this negative gradient tool, stop and 1.2 stops negative down, and then minus 100 highlights down at the bottom. And so let me take this off. See how bright that foreground is? And then by adding it, see how your eye just naturally goes back to her face? But when I take this off, like, you don't really know where to look. So that's kind of the big thing I did. And then I think I gave it, again, just a custom vignette, right? So that her face is the brightest thing, and just a radial tool to give it a vignette around. Yeah. And then we have this one. All I did here, the only thing I did, I just cloned out that little, I don't know what it was, a bat or whatever. That's all I did, right? Just a simple clone right there. Here's the before and after. I just think it looks smoother this way, because now we have this uninterrupted pattern of white instead of it broken up there. Just a little change. Nothing crazy. You can hate me if you want. I'm okay. So Steven, your dust spot was right over here. So I hope you didn't send it off to print, because it's right there. See that dust spot? Boom, get rid of it. That's it. That was the only thing. Get rid of the dust spot. It's helpful, like, before you go in to make a print, zoom in and check your edges, right? Just kind of pan along and check your edges. Oh, there's another one. There's two dust spots. Okay. Because this was shot at f22, so you're going to see more dust spots at f22 than you would at f2. Okay. But yeah, two dust spots in the left-hand corner. All right, let's see. So this is how I cropped on this one, right? I gave it a crop and kind of got rid of that foreground that wasn't really adding anything to the photo. I think that makes for a stronger portrait of the pup here. Right, it really makes you focus exactly on that. That's it. That's all I did. Just a little crop. Little crop. Ooh, what I hit? Hit the wrong button. Now this one from Kier, I did a lot more. I did a radial, right? Just kind of that custom vignette, minus 0.9, minus 40 highlights around everything but their faces. I did another radial brush to kind of tone down this lower left where the signature of the flash was. I used some gradient tools to darken this entire right-hand side. And the reason I did that, I wanted that side darker so that it was more chiaroscuro lighting where they're brighter and the background's darker on that side, just to kind of pop it off a little bit more. And I did another gradient tool at the bottom left here to darken up that flash area again. So basically, I'm just using these to hide where the flash fired. Okay, that's it. On this Fire Dancer here, same thing again. Gradient tool. Ooh, nope. Gradient tool just to darken that foreground. I darkened it a stop and a third. And then a radial to darken, just to brighten up her face a little bit relative to everything else. The other thing I did was just a little bit of a crop. Just a little bit, nothing much. But let me show you the difference there. So look at these two photos and see how having a darker foreground makes your eyes come more to this area instead of kind of getting lost in some of these squiggles down here. The other thing it does, it makes these flames down in the water stand out a little bit more. So again, you may not like it, but just showing you what you could do. I'm not saying this is the only way to do things, just things you can do. But yeah, just a gradient tool to darken up that foreground. Okay. And this is just me. All I did was, the only thing I changed here was I changed the luminance. So I brightened up the blues just a little bit, and I brightened up the oranges and reds just to make that skin come out a little bit more. That's it. Not a big change, but just a little bit. So this one had a little bit more change. So Mark, I took the entire photo down exposure, and then I used a positive radial tool to brighten up the center area by two stops. So basically, I brightened up the center 2 stops and then darkened the rest of the photo half a stop. So I wanted to make her stand out more. Right, so look at the difference here between these two photos. See, in this one, she's the brightest thing, so your eye goes there. Where in the one on the original, there's a lot of things that are competing for what's brightest. And so we tend to want to make the subject stand out the most. So that's all I did. A positive radial, right? So an internal radial made it brighter and then darken the rest of the photo. And then I killed the highlights. So, oh, actually, that's not all. Haha. I also did, I have a little thing called Sunburst, which is 25 warm, plus 2 exposure, plus 30 highlights. And so I drug that down to kind of warm up the sky because I felt like this top area was a little cool. So it makes it feel like the sun's kind of coming from the top, working our way down. But again, it's just dodging and burning, right? That's all it really is. It's just dodging and burning. I didn't change anything about this photo. Loved it. Now, Chris, this is what I mean by, I'm still not happy with the square crop, but instead of this full crop, by cropping in here, it's just hands. I probably should go a little bit more this way. It gets rid of the cars, and it really focuses on just the flame and the hands and the workers. I don't necessarily love this crop. I'm still kind of playing with it. But just as an idea, right? It gets rid of the cars on the right. It gets rid of the cars on the left. Focuses more on the gloves and the flame and kind of gets rid of everything else. I don't love this yet. I would want to play with it some more, but just as an idea of what I had in my head. All I did here, the only thing I changed was I went to transform in Lightroom and hit auto. So before and after, see how this door right here is kind of falling to the left? I hit auto and it straightened up my doors. There you go. That's all I did. But just that little bit. Oh, I think I did a little radial tool on the lower right, maybe. Oh, I just did it around her face. So I made her a little brighter. That's all. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Not big changes. This is a big change, okay? So again, a repeating pattern here. I didn't change the crop. I didn't change the color. Didn't do any of that. I just did a big, right, basically a 2-stop gradient to darken up the stadium bleachers. And then I added a bunch of clarity and dehaze and vibrance to kind of make it feel like a more of a sport portrait, right? Young kids, you can do this on their skin. It's fine. The rest of us, it doesn't work so well. I also killed more of the highlights to bring out more of the sky, and I boosted the vibrance to bring out all the colors. So just some little things to make it pop. But see, in this photo, your eyes go to his eyes, whereas in this one, it kind of goes like eyes, hat, shirt, shoes, floor. I want to limit those choices, so I want to keep the brightest thing the brightest thing. Yep, and that's it. I just want to show y'all just a couple of those things. Very quick, nothing too crazy. So that's it. Yeah, another round done. Another episode 23 of Josh Says Mean Things. If you get a chance, go check out the soaked photo shoot we just posted yesterday. I think it's really fun as well. It's on the YouTube channel. I'm trying to do more of those. Do y'all like the videos? I never know. I hope y'all like the videos. It's something fun. I have fun with the videos. So if y'all like more videos, let me know. I'll keep doing them. So yeah, just take a look at it. Let me know your thoughts. If you like in a voice, if you're watching this, if you have questions about anything we're doing, please let me know. I'm happy to give you any feedback that I can. So yeah, that's it for today. Next month, we're going to be doing sport portrait editing, or kind of maybe we'll say like weird portrait editing. We'll go weird because I did some stuff today that I really liked as well. And then yeah, start thinking about what you want to submit for next month's Josh Says Mean Things, because it'll be episode 24, September. Woo! Bill says my image 27 F4. Yeah, that was really tough. Yeah, I think Bill, you were shooting those ambient light only, and that's a tough situation because it was pretty dark. The only thing lighting it was the flame. So yeah, that was pretty tough. So anyway, thanks for watching, y'all. Y'all have a great evening, and we will talk to y'all soon.